ora koutou e te whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hero News. Kia ora, Chewie. How are you, mate?
Kia ora, Pat. It's the end of my working week again. It's good. I did a crazy thing today.
Do you want to share with us quickly your crazy thing?
I'm going to London. I
Yeah,
have made a very short notice decision to go to London.
And tell the people why you made the crazy decision.
It is going to be the last time that I get to see Murder by Death play live, because I do not think that I will be able to gain entry to the Americas ever again.
So you're literally going to London to see a band.
Yep.
Have you, just so you know, have you put your leave form in? I haven't seen a leave fee. What if
if you check the work Yammer, it's in there.
Okay, just checking. And how much of a whirlwind is it? What's the time in London, the whole kind of start to finish?
I'm going to go there for, I think it's a little bit under 2 weeks.
Oh, cool.
So London's a big place. So I'm catching up with some of the people that I met in Colorado that are flying to the UK to see them as well. So it'd be a good catch up with some friends that I have in London as well.
Why are people from the US flying when they're playing in the US as well? What's that all about?
Big fans.
Okay.
Big fans. Just trying to squeeze in as many of these farewell tour gigs as they can. But yeah, it's nice. Like I'm usually a big planner. Like I'll plan a big trip. Like last time I went to see them when I went to the States, I was planning that trip 8 months ahead of time. So to do this with a couple of weeks to plan feels pretty chaotic. But yeah, really glad to be doing it.
Justin wants to know if you're banned from America. I think it's more that you wouldn't want to be stopped and turn around. That's more the thing, isn't it?
I've read so many stories about, and I'm not saying I'm a fucking journalist or a reporter or anything like that, but there's so many stories of people being turned away for their social media comments and that sort of thing. And look, it wouldn't be hard to point an arrow at this or any of the things that I've said on my various social media things about the orange gibbon. That would have me turned away at the border. Yeah. And America's one of those places that even if you're transiting through, you go right through their immigration process. So it's not like you get out in LAX and you're not technically in America because you're leaving in an hour and a half. You have to go right through. You have to have the ESTA transit visa, and you have to include your social media and stuff like that. So I'm not doing it. If they're going to treat people that way, then they can just not have me there.
We won't get into this conversation now because we've got a guest waiting, but like I've heard people go so far as to say when you're entering America at the moment, take a burner phone. Like don't take your own phone, because if they look in there and find something, like, so literally get yourself a phone, load everything into it for that you need, and then leave your other phone. And so it's pretty scary actually. Tourists and stuff who have been turned around. And
talking to my travel agent today, and I just said, look, have you guys seen an effect on people going to US? And she goes, yeah, the people that are aware of what is going on are definitely avoiding it. There's always going to be people that want to go and see Disneyland no matter what the state of the world is. But she says people like yourself, where you might be going somewhere else, but you'll mention, hey, look, I want to go through, I don't want to transit the US. Yeah.
All right, we will talk more about this as we go through the night. Tonight we're going to have a look at, well actually the theme probably comes up a couple of times, but later on tonight we'll have a look at the story on One News tonight about Fonterra, the decisions that they've made, and also Nicola Willis coming out today. Should I give the quote? Maybe I'll give the quote that New Zealand consumers are, quote, not getting a raw deal on butter. So the meeting last night or 2 nights ago led her to saying, yep, everything's fine. Nothing to see here. Also, though,
I would also say the other thing that she said was, hey, look, the CEO of Fonterra is incredibly well spoken, so I'm going to ask that he speaks to New Zealand before the end of the week. And we got that today. So how well spoken was he?
Yeah. David Seymour thinks if you're not registered close enough or further out from enough from the election, you are a drop quick. Don't get this wrong. Any hindrance on the ability to someone to vote, any hindrance is a threat on democracy. And I actually will go along with you and say, yep, everyone should be registered days, weeks, month. That all should happen. 100% can they? They should, and they can. However, any hindrance, doesn't matter why, you're not them, that they want to sign up on the day, of the ability to vote is a threat to democracy. And ironically, exactly what's happening in America with Republican lawmakers as well about making it. If a government is making it harder to vote, even if they can justify it by saying, well, of course, you should just get registered now, fine. But if for any reason they're making it 1% harder to vote, that is a threat to democracy.
Yep.
So we'll have a look at that tonight. And of course, let's jump in and have a chat with our guest. Chewie's already done a little bit of fangirling, which is kind of cool, Chewie. He's massive on TikTok, and he tells the truth straight from the tractor. It is Craig, aka DairyManNZ, and he joins us right now. Kia ora, Craig, straight out of Ash Vegas. How are you, man?
Yeah, you're all great. Thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on.
Glad to have you.
I've been peppered with people saying, talk to Craig about all this, talk to Craig. And so you've been very generous with your time. We showed one of your TikToks last night. I believe it was the one here where you kind of said, this feels like a bit of a PR stunt, the meeting with Fonterra.
Yeah, look, I think Nicola Willis knows exactly what the answers to her questions are going to be before she even reaches the meeting. Willis held some fairly senior roles at Fonterra for 6 years. She has in-depth knowledge of the legislation governing Fonterra. She knows exactly how the farmgate milk price is calculated and set. She understands wholesale pricing. She knows that the wholesale price is only changed every 3 months, and any fluctuation in retail price between those times is outside of the hands of the...
So, and we pointed out that it sounded like what you were saying is a little bit of showboating going on, a little bit of performative conversation from the finance minister. So we thought we'd love to get you on and just have a bit of a talk about it. So why don't we start there? You've got some thoughts, some feelings around Nicola Willis and her performance this week. What are your thoughts?
She was not helped at all by her leader, who went on and contradicted her almost immediately. And I think she was on Heather Duplessis Allen's drive when she said she was going to bring Miles in for a chat. There was a bit of media interest after that and a speculation about what they were going to be talking about. I mean, it's a scheduled meeting that they have every month or so. And then Luxon went on to Hosking and said, no, actually, Miles called the meeting. Which was absolute bollocks, of course, which only fed the circus. So it, and then the story just got away with them. People were expecting Fonterra to be hauled over the coals. They were expecting solutions. They were expecting resolution. And I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the price of butter has not changed. There was nothing in that meeting that ever was going to change the price of butter, and everybody that was participating knew that. That's just not how it works.
And Nicola Willis has come out to say that consumers are, quote, not getting a raw deal, end quote, on butter. In other words, we are paying an appropriate price for butter. So that's come out 2 days after the meeting. So obviously exactly what you said. Don't expect anything from the meeting. It's performative. It's exactly how it's ended up.
Mm-hmm. And to spin it further, she went back on the attack on supermarkets, which is where the whole thing started anyway. So I'm not quite sure what the sideshow. I'm sure Chris Quinn from Foodstuffs was rubbing his hands thinking that the heat was off him and Fonterra was going to get it now, but no, the heat is straight back on the supermarkets. And fair enough too, they're the ones being called a cartel. They're the ones being held to account by the Commerce Commission, not Fonterra. So I'm quite happy for the attention to go back on them. Thank you very much.
It is interesting as well because let's say she has, and I mean like grain of salt, bucket of salt, let's say that she has identified the issue in the supermarkets. The next step would be then doing something about it, and they're not doing anything about it. So Chewie for a long time says that this government is good at identifying problems, but very randomly do they come up with finding the solutions to those problems.
I've said exactly the same thing about Labor governments. Is that they're very, very good at the ideas, but the execution is failing. And did you see the Emerson cartoon a couple of days ago? That I'm pretty sure I retweeted it, with a lineup of, I think, the past 6 or 7 prime ministers all talking about supermarkets and no action. And I took that to mean that if there was an easy solution to grocery prices, we would have found it by now.
Yeah, true. Chewie, so you got some thoughts, some questions?
Yeah, so as I noticed, you're sitting there wearing a Fonterra shirt. What's the feeling, I guess, with people in your boat as far as you see these prices go up, and you see the reaction online from New Zealanders going, well, we don't think this is fair. How much do you think it would affect you if they say took the product that's for sale in New Zealand and just did it at cost? Would that affect what you get paid at the farm gate or anything like that?
See, that's not how the farm gate milk price is calculated. So that's
Please,
it. I think
let me know.
where that will affect me is my dividend from Fonterra. So that won't just affect farmers, that'll affect all Fonterra shareholders. I don't know. Another interesting one I thought where Willis totally missed the boat was talking to Fonterra, is we've just had a brand new butter factory commissioned in Matamata, and 100% of that butter is going to be exported. Thank you, Tallies. Why aren't we talking, if you want more competition domestically, why are we allowing a dairy factory to collect New Zealand milk, process it into butter, and export 100% of it?
Can we take a step back, Craig? Can you explain to us city folk how to get to the price of a block of butter? We keep getting told, global trading prices. I mean, it seems that most products that you buy in a shop, there'll be a manufacturing cost for the wood and the screws and the glue, and then there'll be a margin put on top, and then that'll be what it sells for in the shop. How do we actually get this price? Because I don't understand it.
Okay, I haven't done the math recently, but I did do the math on the TikTok a while back, so I'll use those figures. And that was when butter was at its peak. I think it was $7,990 a ton, and I think at that point the exchange rate was 62 cents. It's come back then. So every 2 weeks we have an auction, a global market, and that actually sets the floor for the price of these commodities. It doesn't set the high price, it sets the floor. That is the minimum somebody is willing to pay for that product. And there's bidders from all over the world. And I'll take an even further step back and tell you why butter prices are so high. Is the Europeans have been concentrating on making cheese, because when you make butter, you've got butter and you've got buttermilk, and buttermilk powder is worth almost nothing. So you've got a product and an almost worthless byproduct. When you make cheese, you've got your cheese, which is valuable, and then you've got your whey protein, which is very valuable. So the Europeans were making less butter because they were concentrating on cheese. Plus, they've got all these diseases. They've got foot and mouth. They've got blue tongue. Right. So European production was very constrained. New Zealand, we were at the end of the season, so our production was relatively constrained, and at the same time, demand went up. So we hit an historic peak for butter prices. Butter has never been more expensive, a more valuable commodity. And at $7,990 per US dollars per ton, at a 62-cent exchange rate, that is equivalent to $6.50 New Zealand for 500 grams of butter, or it was when I did the maths. But that's not a 500-gram block of butter. That's a container load of butter, and I think they're 20-kilo blocks sitting on the dock. They haven't been portioned, they haven't been wrapped, they haven't been shipped by the half pallet to a Foursquare and Gore. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of expense on there, and your distributor's got to clip the ticket, your transporter and your supermarket. So I think if you take a $6.50 cost price for a raw product sitting on the dock, it's not too difficult to get to $8 in the supermarket.
And I understand that for butter product that's sold in France. I think what we don't understand is that milk that comes out of cows in New Zealand that gets then turned into butter in New Zealand, I think the bit that we're not understanding is why is it essential for New Zealand to pay the international trade price for the products that, because I think about it like this. I'm a very simple man, Craig. If the cow is in Waikato and the mill, whatever, the that gets processed in Waikato, it gets put in a Hamilton supermarket, there's no international, that's not going to cost anywhere near as much as a block of butter that needs to get to London, yet we're paying London prices. This is what I don't kind of really understand.
If you're in London, that price that's on the dock. This seems to be a big misconception with international shipping. International shipping is dirt cheap. We're talking cents per kilo, but also Fonterra's not paying that shipping. So the customer buys it for that $6.50 per 500 gram block sitting on the dock, and then pays to have it shipped to China or Africa or wherever. That is the true cost or the true value of that butter, without anything else being done to it. So you can forget international shipping because the customer pays for it.
Yeah, but that would still be passed on to the consumer. There's no international shipping in New Zealand to pass on to the consumer.
No, but this butter, people think of butter and they think of a 500 gram block sitting
I got
in the That's not what we're exporting. We're exporting it to commercial bakeries. We're exporting it in sheets to make croissants. We're not exporting 500 gram blocks of butter. So there's still processing to be done in country to get it where it is. And even New Zealand butter that you see in Australia, that's not exported in 500 gram blocks. That's exported in bulk, and then it's processed there and put on the shelf. So there is no shipping, but there is still processing to be done here. And I'll tell you what, shipping within New Zealand is a hell of a lot more expensive. It's probably more expensive to get something from Auckland to Ashburton than it is to get it from Auckland to Shanghai.
Yeah. So is there, for the consumers out there that are going, how can we get cheaper butter, if they are asking that question? Like, is there an answer, or is it just basically suck it up, this is the price, this is the price?
I think the answer is, is to shop around and buy the home brands. If you believe the supermarkets, they tell us that they're selling their butter at cost price at the moment. I'm not sure I believe that, but that's what they're telling us. And if that $8 is their cost, then that's the cheapest you're going to find it.
Although in saying that, I wouldn't be surprised if some were even running a loss leader to get people through the door.
Food stuff there. And I have had a few people in my comments alleging that they're losing 50 cents a block of butter, and maybe they are. But I'll tell you what, if I was selling butter at a loss, I would be letting people know to generate a bit of goodwill, because if there's one thing supermarkets need at the moment, it's probably a bit of goodwill.
So I understand what you're saying about the globally traded price. I mean, look, as I said, I'm a very simple man, Craig, and I look to places like, Saudi Arabia, where they produce petrol, and the local purchasers of petrol don't pay the globally traded price on oil. They pay a very cheap rate.
But it's also heavily subsidised.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying. So what you're saying is, for that kind of thing to happen here, the government would need to subsidise it, which means we're still paying for it in our taxes anyway. Yeah,
look, there's this misconception that farmers are subsidised, and I get that a lot as well. Every time there's a drought, the government bails you out. No, they don't. And all these people who, I find it extremely ironic, try and tell me that I'm subsidised and living off the government tip, all of a sudden want their butter subsidised. It makes no sense to me. I find it extremely ironic.
So when we try and work out what does it cost to manufacture a 500 gram block of butter, the cost price of the butter is based on the international trade, because that's what Fonterra can sell it for. So that's what they sell it for.
No. And that's what Fonterra has to sell it for. So that's another thing people forget, is that Fonterra is heavily regulated under the Dairy Industry Restructuring Act. And they are, so out of all of the dairy companies in New Zealand, Fonterra are the only one that are transparent with how they set the farm gate milk price, because it's set down in legislation, it's overseen by the Commerce Commission, it's overseen by the government, and it's very prescriptive about what they have to do to get that price. So it's not that they've decided to do this, it's that they have to do this. It is legislated.
Well, there's not only that, but if you have like if you're on the stock exchange, you have a fiduciary responsibility to make as much profit as possible. Legally, you have to do that as well, aside from what's in legislation.
Well, in Fonterra's constitution, which is again legislated under the Dairy Industry Restructuring Act, is that Fonterra shall pay the highest sustainable farm gate milk price. So that's right. When you're talking about shareholders, you're then talking about profitability. I'm talking about something different. I'm talking about what farmers are paid.
Yeah. All right.
Profitability comes down to efficiency.
Chewie, got some thoughts or questions to wrap up? Because I know Craig will have to go to bed soon, won't you, Craig?
I have to get up and check the cows shortly.
I guess the real takeaway here is this is a lot more complicated than it's being portrayed in the media. It's a lot more complicated than what Nicola Willis wants us to believe.
Yeah, look, if you followed me on TikTok, you may have noticed my tone has changed recently. I have been trying to be very educational about pricing and costs and whatnot, and how farmers are price takers, and recently I've just said fuck it, and I've just embraced the fact that I can go to Sydney for a week because the butter price is high, which some people saw for the satire it was, and some people got very offended over. So I don't know.
I think in this day and age, when you're talking about, being able to afford things, I mean, this particular TikTok you did, I think would drive most people wild with, I'll just turn it down because it's probably the thing, with the amount of butter that one uses on a piece of toast. I think that must be a, $20 piece of bread you're going to eat right there with that much butter on it. I think that'll be the thing there you go. That would be the thing that would frustrate most people.
As I said, my tone may have changed slightly over the past few weeks as Buttergate has roared out of control. But look, if I can say one thing, it would be that the prices will come down as New Zealand's production ramps up and supply matches demand, because Europe, everybody, there have been factories in Ireland have stayed open specifically to make butter because the returns are so good. So I would say that as our season kicks into gear and production ramps up, butter prices will come down. But also I'd say that these wholesale prices are only set every 3 months. The supermarkets negotiate with this. I can only speak to Fonterra, not Goodman Fielder, but the supermarkets negotiate a wholesale price every quarter. So anything that happens to a butter price between the 31st of May and whatever it is 3 months later, that's totally on the supermarkets. The wholesale price has not changed in that time. So every quarter we'll see a change, and that's why there's been a lag. I have made TikToks in the past where people were buying butter, complaining about the price of butter. Actually, last November I said it, and I've pointed out that the price of butter in the supermarket was actually cheaper than the GDT price. So there is a lag, and it will catch up. I know one person in my comments, when I said that, they went out and bought 50 blocks of butter, and they're down to their last 2 now. So they were buying it at $5 a block.
And then they'll be selling it right now for 10 a block on Trade Me. Double their money.
I think it's a good. They've done a good job. They've managed to eat it all. So thank them for supporting my lifestyle.
Hey, Craig, thank you for being with us tonight. If people want to find out more about you or follow you, best places on TikTok. I know you're on Twitter and Blue Sky as well, but it's TikTok.
Yeah, I'm probably on TikTok more often now. I think Twitter's gone downhill in a big hurry since it got bought. But yeah, if anyone reaches out, I do check my DMs and do check my my notifications.
Yep, and I can testify to that because that's how I got in touch with you. You're very kind with your time, and I know it's past your bedtime, so we'll just say thanks so much for joining us tonight. And yeah, be nice to those cows. Is that what you say? What do you say to a
look,
farmer?
and thank you for having me. But look, if anyone does have any questions about the mechanisms of butter pricing, I'm happy to share what I know. Most of it is publicly available knowledge. I have been to a fair few Fonterra conferences, and you were talking about Miles Harold before. And can I just say, when that man is at a farmer meeting, he has got everybody's attention. That man has the respect of every Fonterra supplier. That man's got mana, and we listen to what he says. And I can understand why Willis wanted him to go out and explain things, because he's been working at Fonterra over 20 years in different roles, and he knows the business inside and out. I've got a lot of time for him.
So he was there when she was there, if he's been there for over 20 years.
Yeah, but he wasn't her boss at that point, though.
Do you think that you used the word mana for him? Do you think that Nicola Willis impacted his mana this week? Do you think what she's done has kind of painted him in an unfair light?
Oh, I'll tell you what upset me more than Willis, and I think it's probably impacted her more than him. What got me was reporters thinking it was relevant to ask him about his salary when we're talking about the price of butter. I thought that was a low blow. He shouldn't have to defend that. The man adds far more value to Fonterra than we pay him. So I know $6 million was a lot of money in anybody's book, but he earns every cent of it.
It's still not quite enough to buy a block of butter tomorrow, though, is it? Needs probably $8 million for that. Then you'll be sweet. All right, Craig. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. Really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll catch up again sometime in the future.
Not at all. Hope so too. I might have a better audio visual setup next time.
Okay. All the best. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you.
Cheers, Craig.
See you, bye. Apart from anything else, it's also said today that Fonterra 25 billion in sales this year. So one of the things that the CEO said, Mr. Harrell, is that, you know, the other side of it, it's $25 billion of producing for the economy. So yeah, there you go. Chewie, thoughts, if any?
I've got a lot of thoughts. I've got a lot of time for Craig. He's a really interesting window into a world that not a lot of us know about.
Yeah.
And I think he's very free with his opinions. You know, he's aware of what we do, and yet he's come in, he's just told us what we think, what he thinks. So I think you have to give some weight to that. That doesn't mean I necessarily agree with everything that he says. It is hard for me to swallow the fact that the CEO of Fonterra gets $6 million a year.
I look, I know what you mean, but and here's a but for you. This is not a fence-sitting but or a negative. It's like $25 billion a year company. I wonder internationally if it's on par with things, but I hear you. Like, I see people in the chat going, fucking no one deserves the $6 million salary. I hear you, but I also know that there's a commercial world out there that pays a certain amount for a certain product. So is it right is one question. Is it fair within the commercial sector is another altogether.
Yeah, and I mean, look, you've got Craig there going, look, I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's a man with a lot of mana, all of that sort of thing. My mind goes to the fact, who actually works harder there? Is it Craig or is it the CEO?
Craig, 100%. He's joking about to get up for the cows. What he's meaning is his alarm probably goes off at 4. So yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. It really is strange. I think what this chat has highlighted is that sort of similar to what I said, the aspects that we're talking about that go into what Fonterra does is complex. The fact that it's a cooperative that's owned by the farmers, the fact that it is such a linchpin part of our economy, and the fact that a lot of people won't care about those sort of things. They'll just see the price of butter in the supermarket and go, what the fuck, who is doing this, and who is coming to save us? And it is very clear out of this conversation with Nicola Willis and the CEO of Fonterra and the supermarkets and all of that sort of stuff, then no one is coming to help us out. No, that butter price, look, it'll fluctuate, it'll come down, I'm sure it will, but there is not going to be any extra pressure put on that. There is not going to be any, as Fonterra's CEO said, no two-tier pricing for New Zealand and our international customers. And the government certainly isn't going to mess with free market forces. It's, I don't know if these figures are correct, but I saw someone talking about it. Fonterra's production that goes to New Zealand makes up 5% of their total production, and they just did it at $5 a block. It would be like 0.01% of their total takings. It would bounce off them, but they just don't want to do it.
Yeah, I
don't know if that means that they can't do it. Like you heard Craig say, Fonterra has a constitution. It is a co-op. It's run by the farmers. It's a lot more complex than that. They can't just go. I get that, but butter's still expensive.
I still, and Craig explained the way it is. I guess I'm wondering, why is it that way? Like, if it's the way it is, that means the way it is can change. Because like I said in that conversation, and obviously I was saying I don't understand, what I was meaning is, I think this is a common misunderstanding, is that butter that's going to, and I agree, like obviously it goes over in massive tubs, and then once it lands in London, that's where they cut it up and wrap it and deliver it. But
they tip up one end of the container and it just slides out with a very satisfying noise at the end.
But there is, no matter what we say, it's more expensive to get a block of butter, the end product, into a shop in London than it is to get a block of butter, the end product, into a shop in Wellington. That's kind of, even if it's really cheap international, yep, I got all that, no problems. But, if they're wrapping them in the UK, then you've also got UK wages to pay you, if it, depending where it goes in the UK to get wrapped or whatever. So I felt like I felt like the only answer to that question was because this is how it works, rather than maybe it could work a different way. Maybe there could be a way. But look, the other thing about it is, I understand, I mean, all of us probably know farmers. I know farmers who have survived droughts, who have gone backwards for 3 or 4 or 5 years in a row, who are there on the skin of their teeth, family farms, that kind of stuff. Are we really also, and look, I'm now thinking sort of existentially rather than about the price of butter today, when they have 6 bad years and then they have 3 good years, and they get through last year's debt with this year's profits, or they put aside some of this year's profits for the next 2 years' debt. Do we want them to fail? And look, I know this is a much bigger question about the ethical nature of farming, full stop. That could be all of it. But I know too many people who have struggled in that industry, who have snuck through and got through. I've got friends up in Waikato who have who run bull. So they're a meat farm. And some years they just make it through, and some years they go backwards, and then other years they do okay. Yeah.
I mean,
so do we? I guess what I'm trying to say is, what if the? Because I want butter to be cheaper, but I also don't want to screw over the farmer. Fonterra, another question. The farmer, don't know.
Craig hasn't left yet. He's still lurking. I haven't gone to bed yet, so I can just point out that butter in the UK, Europe, Ireland is just as expensive as butter here. New Zealand butter is sold there at a premium. We can all jump online and check that. And this is actually the true reason I'm going to England, Pat.
Oh, you bring butter back?
I tried to sing cool because I'm going to go and see a band, but what I'm actually going to do is walk into the first Marks and Spencers I see and start taking pictures of fucking butter. So we can find out for ourselves, because we can't trust the traditional media. You can only trust BHN.
Can you put that back up? because this is the thing, and Craig, if you're still watching, would just I guess I'm
gone?
genuinely dumb, because if it is, that still doesn't make sense to me. And I know that what we've just had explained is the export price is a minuscule part of it, the travel and all that kind of stuff. But butter shouldn't be the same price in Europe as it is here. I guess that's what I'm saying, because I'll say it again, even though it doesn't add a lot to the price, a block of butter in Ireland that's travelled from New Zealand as a mass product and then being, broken up and wrapped and delivered in Ireland to Ireland is going to cost more per block than it is in New Zealand. I guess that's what I'm saying. It shouldn't be the same price. Now, when I say it shouldn't be the price, my opinion is it shouldn't be the same price. But I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, if what we're saying is this is the way it is because this is the way it is, maybe somewhere in New Zealand we need to change it. Is there a way that the farmer cannot be impacted, but the community, the society can get a better deal? Like I was saying about the fuel, and I know that Craig was saying that's not really a fair comparison, but the places that produce fuel have a different price on their fuel than the international traded commodity. I assume it's a choice. Now, whether it's because it's subsidized or however it works, but there is a choice that's been made, because we looked it up the other night, that in Saudi Arabia, you pay 50 cents, equivalent to 50 cents a litre. I don't know. I mean, that's why we get to sit here in Dunedin with our big fat faces and say big fat things that we don't really understand, and other people have to explain it to us, Chewie.
And I mean, look, I'm looking through British supermarket websites at the moment, and Sainsbury's British butter unsalted, £1.99.
Emily saying, I think Craig is saying Ireland made butter costs is the same as New Zealand made butter in New Zealand. New Zealand butter sent to the UK costs more. Okay, so I am a moron. So what Emily's saying, what Craig is saying is that to manufacture butter from Irish cows in Ireland costs the same as to manufacture New Zealand butter in New Zealand. And New Zealand butter going to Ireland has a premium on it, therefore it's paid more. Okay, well, I'm stupid. I get that. You get that? I'm stupid. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess when it comes down to it, the end consumer who's getting pushed 10 ways from Friday, the government who set up, the ability for young families to get some help with their childcare. There's going to be thousands and thousands of families, and it's 150 or something. And then all of these things on top end up being tighter and tighter and tighter with money. And like I said, I mean, you guys probably saw it with Trump. For 2, 3, 4 months after Trump, the headlines every day about the price of egg prices. Yeah. And they didn't bring Trump down because he won. I just wonder if this is going to be something that sticks around for this government and will be one of the layers. I'm not ever going to say they're not going to win the next election. I've given up predicting elections, but I guess what I'll say is it's a layer, it's a crack in the veneer that might make it a bit harder to win the next election.
Yeah, look, I have two final thoughts on this before we do super chats and that sort of thing.
Yep.
One is, I think the aspect of the story that is probably more interesting, and it is getting lost by everybody, is talking about the price of butter. Rather than talking about the finance minister wading in, making it look like she was going to come and fucking save the day. And in the end, it was her big announcement was the CEOs can communicate this better than I ever can. You'll hear from him tomorrow, and he's come out and said everything we already know.
Yep. And to be fair, that's what Craig said to us.
Changed.
That's what Craig said to us before we came on. He actually said the really interesting thing here is the reaction from the finance minister. So that's a really good refocus, Chewie.
So why did she do it at all? Because, like I said the other day, this is kind of a theme now, is that she'll hype herself up that she's going to do something or announce something, and then she does, and it's something we already know. And it's like, well, what have you really done here? The other aspect, and I personally find this difficult. You know, I'm someone that likes dairy. I'm someone that likes butter. I like cheese. I would have actually liked to ask Craig why our cheese sucks so much. Why does New Zealand cheese suck so much compared to cheese from Europe? But that would have been off topic. I like meat. I like all of those things. Like does the price of those things going up, does that help our climate? If people aren't able to buy butter as much, if people aren't able to buy meat as much, they start looking at alternatives. Maybe they don't eat meat as much. Is it better for our health? Is it better for our environment? Is that one mechanism that we get better at this sort of stuff or not? Because historically, if you look at the way that we produce and consume our food, this is a golden period of being able to access protein and that sort of thing very, very fucking easily. You go back to your grandparents' generation and they'll find a way to make a chicken last for 5 days. You know, and you know, the Americans had a president that rode to victory on the promise of a chicken in every pot once a week. Like that, and people went, "Oh, I've never had that before. That's fucking great." Like, and that was not that long ago. But now we have such an enormous production of food, of industrialized, you know, food production, and enormous levels of waste that come out of that through the supermarkets and that sort of thing. That maybe high prices to wean us off that expectation is maybe a good thing in the long run.
You said weenus. You said
Say
weenus.
weenus. Got two of them. There they are. See my weenus.
This is the cartoon, I think, that Craig was referencing from Helen Clark. Yes. To
Yep.
I like that he's the shortest and the weirdest looking. The government is very concerned about the lack of competition in the grocery sector, and although much work has been done, we're working on it.
And look, I keep on coming back to the same thing. A previous time that the government has looked at an industry and gone, there is not enough competition here, and has talked about it for over a decade, and then finally was forced to act. And that was with telecom.
Right.
They had to break telecom up into Spark and Chorus to introduce more competition into the market. So the government has that power. Like, I'd love for them to look at the supermarkets and included them in this. I think that was a distraction to draw them away from Fonterra. But it is also a problem that they have identified and are doing nothing about it. But to go, hey, look, you can have another supermarket of your brand or of your chain, you know, foodstuffs or whatever. But you can't have two within like a kilometre. You can't, like, if you're just having a supermarket there to fucking land bank and stop someone else coming in, well, we're taking that supermarket off you and we're giving it to someone else.
Yeah. I mean, that's the one. Like, it's not a problem. Like, I'm not being defeatist, but the one issue with the monopoly or duopoly breakup, I should say, is that what'll happen is it'll service Auckland first and for a long time, and then it will slowly go. Like Costco is a perfect example. We've got a Costco in Auckland. Come and buy a coffin, whatever the fuck they do up there. And you know, the smaller centres will be left out. But like what you're saying, Chewie, is, I mean, like you said, a kilometre, or whatever the distance is. Like, I'm thinking about here in Dunedin, like you kind of go from the north and there's a new world, and then within about 2 k's there's another new world, and beside that there's a countdown, and then about another 4 k's there's another new world and a pack and save. So yeah, they're pretty, and if you just said within 5 k's, then that second new world on the one ways wouldn't allowed to be there, so they can't land bank it, so it would have to be owned by someone else. I guess the downside is, Chewie, owned by someone else or not existing. And then that could cause a problem. It could go the other way.
It needs to be owned by someone else.
So maybe
You know,
maybe they can have it within those kilometres until the third party wants to come in. Then they have to clear out, because if there's not someone to replace that second, and I'm just saying New World for the sake of it, that second New World, then you don't want it to necessarily go away, because then there's fewer New Worlds, and that might actually increase the price as well. So maybe there's something that has to be a viable third party. I know the Warehouse was looking at it. Maybe I should try and get Stephen Tyndall on, because he was looking at rebuying the Warehouse, and they were talking about the Warehouse being a grocery option. So I wonder if that would be part of the plan, because their infrastructure is already here.
I don't know if you've gone in. They've gone on a big push of some grocery items.
Yeah, I get my eggs from
but
them.
it's a bit weird at the moment. It's a bit weird, because it's a bit like, I can see what you're trying to do, but it's not quite there. You wouldn't go to the Warehouse for your grocery items.
I go to the Warehouse when I'm in the area to get free range eggs, because they're the best price at the Warehouse. So that's what I get from there. But that's honestly about it. They're not that much, but that would be something that would be the way to do it. The way to do it is to get on a group that's already through the country, like the Warehouse, who's already got the infrastructure, who could be the third option.
I was just thinking, remember when eggs were quite expensive, because, well, they're still quite expensive, but you know, when they moved away from battery hens and the price went up, and people were like, fuck, I'm just going to get chickens. You know, I wonder about those people now. Are they still keeping their chickens? The other thing is, now that butter's really expensive, do we all go and buy a dairy cow? I'm going to go get a cow.
Yes, done. A co-op cow, a BHN cow, a big heifer news. We could be big heifer news. A bull heifer news. Something like that. That would work. All right. I nearly pushed end stream there. I don't know why my finger went up to ending the stream at
Freudian.
47. Yeah. Ryjan says, that's their leave fee, Chewie. That's for you going to the UK.
It's been approved. It's been approved by that job.
We're a co-op. I motion for Chewie's leave. Kiwi Bird says, wanted to know if Craig was related to Craig Rennie. Because they look similar? They certainly don't sound similar.
No, because they've got the same name.
Same name, Craig
Everybody
Rennie.
knows. Craig and Craig, so they're related. Okay. They're brothers.
Rewise says Nicholas is useful as a headless teaspoon. As useful as a headless teaspoon. Kiwi Bird, you could still stir with it. It has a service. Craig, can we blame the French for this? I think we can always blame the French for something. Danger of Mouse. I was pissed off today, shopping day, that almost every third item I picked up had gone up in price from a fracking week or two ago. Bill says, bloody hell, dilly-dallying again. Dresnort farmers may not be directly subsidised, but they are in the sense of externalising their costs through unsustainable land use and fresh water use, etc. No offence intended, Craig. You were awesome. Peter says, I like the idea of co-op supermarket. Yeah, we'll see what Mum Dani does in New York, eh? This is what he's talking about. And the Danger of Mouse again, talk to our local FIFO, fresh in, fresh out. They moved in when Countdown moved out. So they literally moved in when someone moved out, and now they're running a fresh in, fresh out. So they're the fresh ones that are in, because Countdown moved out. Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we're always going to suffer, unfortunately, in this country is the economy of scale. You know, you always pay, and I'm not saying it's fair, but you're always paying more when you're delivering a similar size product to a small audience. You know, when you're in America and you go to a Costco and they literally order millions of an item, their millions of widgets they order cost them a fraction of the price of what ordering 10,000 of them cost. And that's just economies of scale, which sucks, but it's the way it works, unfortunately. All right, Chewie, seeing we're now talking about interesting things, always, I'll say it again. Any reason to make participating in the democratic process, any reason to hinder someone casting their vote, is an attack on democracy.
Drop kicks. That's how the Deputy Prime Minister describes people who don't enrol to...
Takes one to know one. Is that what you say in primary school? Yeah.
Vote ahead of time. Now, under plans to overhaul electoral laws, they wouldn't be allowed to cast a ballot. No more same-day enrolment, just one of the proposed changes. The opposition says it could see tens of thousands miss out on exercising their democratic right. Abby Wakefield reports.
Who votes in an election and how you do it is getting a shake-up.
Hey, look, today we're announcing changes to the electoral law.
Among the changes are closing enrolments 13 days before election day.
We used to be able to get an outcome of the election in 2 weeks. It went out to 3 weeks, and the advice I've had is that if we do nothing, it'll be longer than that, pushing into 4 weeks. And
So I knew he was going to
So what?
say that. So I've gone to the official results. November the 3rd. When was election day? Last weekend in October? Have a look it up, because this is really important, because what he's saying is it could take a month. I think what they're doing is they're saying we're including our negotiation time. 2020, 2024 election date? New Zealand election. So, sorry guys, I should have had this before, but I just thought of it. Dum 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 dum. Help me out here. Help me out here. This is, oh, there we go. So it was the 14th of October, 2023. That's right, isn't it? Yeah, 14th of October, 2023. And the results are out November the 3rd, the final tallied November. So it's 2 weeks. So what's the advice saying that if we change the current system where you've got a result in 2 weeks that it's going to be 4? In fact, this is untruthful. So it was 2 weeks last time, and it sounds like he's saying last time it took 3 weeks. Listen again.
it went out to 3 weeks, and the advice I've had is
Election day.
we used to be able to get an outcome of the election in 2 weeks.
Which we did. Which we did. I know it's not exactly 2 weeks, but it's the 14th of October. So the 28th of October would be 2 weeks. It was November 3rd. So it was between 2 and 3 weeks.
Let's be clear what we got last election, right? We got a concession and a victory speech on the fucking night.
Yeah.
So what he's talking about is the last couple of seats. And these people that have enrolled on the day, they're special votes. So making them enroll within 14 weeks is not going to change how quick the special votes come in.
Well,
Because they're coming from overseas and,
Yeah, but
and all of
yeah.
this sort of stuff.
But the overseas ones, you're right. But what they're saying is they don't want a special vote to be made on the day. But then again,
Why?
if you're
the
I'm with you. We're on the same page. But what they're not saying is there will still be special votes that will need to be counted. There will be Chewie, what you've just said, the international votes. Also, if you're on holiday in New Zealand outside your zone. So you live in Auckland, but you're in Queenstown for the weekend, and so you cast your vote in Queenstown. You're already in the system. That's a special vote that will have to be counted afterwards. So
What?
I want to make this really clear. He's saying it used to be 2 weeks, like back in the 60s, and this time around it was 2.5 to 3 maximum. And there's still going to be special votes. So all they're trying, this is about is hindering people who register on the day and cast their vote on the day. And Chewie, are you aware, are we not clear what the majority of those people, what political persuasion they tend to have? Far, far more to the left of politics than to the right of politics. So this government is making the democratic process harder for some people. And it's very clear in the research, though some people will make up a bigger portion of left voters than right voters. So this is a cynical move that doesn't need to be done for a government wanting to hold on to power. How are they going to get the next election, Chewie? Maybe they're trying to find the way how they're going to win the next one, to hold on the power by disenfranchising some people's vote.
Yeah.
End of story.
Making it hard for people to vote, or harder for people to vote, is not going to strengthen our democracy.
Yeah.
Removing people from democracy does not make our democracy stronger. David Seymour thinks that if you can't get organised to register to vote, then you're a dropkick.
You're a dropkick.
So good luck if you have your birthday, your 18th birthday close to the election. You can just wait another 3 years. Thank you very much. Good luck if you've moved. Good luck if you're a dropkick if you go on holiday close to the election. I remember explaining to some overseas friends what the voting experience here was like in New Zealand, and they were dumbfounded that it is so easy.
Mm-hmm.
And they were like, Jesus Christ, if only it was like that here. You know, I said, yeah, like we have, what, a week, 2 weeks to vote? You just wander into your local mall, supermarkets, council office, that sort of thing, tick a box, walk out, job done. So yeah, I just don't understand what problem they're trying to solve.
Yeah.
Oh,
the problem that
we
no.
don't get full results for 3 weeks.
No.
So?
Chewie,
That's
sorry.
a you problem.
Chewie, sorry. You do know what problem they're trying to solve. Just pause and it will come to you. What problem are they trying to solve? What is Paul Goldsmith and his guys? What's the one problem they're trying to solve?
That they want to be the government.
Getting re-elected. That's the problem they're trying to solve. Let's keep going on this story.
It went out to 3 weeks, and the advice I've had is that if we do nothing, it'll be longer than that, pushing into 4 weeks. And so
Could be 3 years.
We're going to close enrolments the day before early voting.
And if you can't, in 3 years, get out and enrol, 13 days out, then there's something wrong with you.
Frankly, I'm a bit sick of dropkicks that can't get themselves organised to follow the law.
In the last
Deputy
election,
Prime
around
Minister.
100
Hang on. No one's breaking the law signing up, registering on the day of the election. Who the fuck are you talking about? No one's breaking a law. And you're basically saying there's dropkicks out there who are breaking the law. Why would we have to think about them? Please explain how breaking the law is signing up to vote on the day of, which is currently allowed. Who are you talking about?
I think what he's trying to reference is that it's against the law to not register to vote.
No, but it's
You can
but
not
it's,
vote, but you have to register.
I agree, but no one's breaking the law if they register on the election day. So what he's saying is people who are breaking the law. Who's he talking about? So what he's saying is we can change this because it'll stop all those people breaking the law. No, it's not illegal to register on election day or a day before or 3 days before or 5 days before. So you're not talking, there's a classic Seymour line for his base, not for the actual conversation.
Yeah, so someone turns up and wants to remedy the fact that they're not registered to vote, and so you want to make that so they can't.
Yeah.
Right. What the
Keep
fuck,
going.
David?
But the other thing they remember is enrolling to vote. I mean, what if you're changing areas and you have to re-enroll and people are saying in the chat they're breaking the law not being enrolled. I actually disagree with that. I get my enrollment form, in the mail. It comes to me, right? I have to authorize that. I authorize that on election day. I'm not breaking the law because I haven't sent the paperwork back yet. That means every New Zealander would be breaking the law until they send the paperwork back. No, you've got till election day to be enrolled. And once you're enrolled on election day, you're not breaking the law. Or else, like I said, everyone who gets those packs 4 weeks out, 5 weeks out, 10 weeks out, who hasn't sent them back is breaking the law. No, you can enroll up to election day. Anyhow, keep going.
150,000 people enrolled after the voting period.
That cut off, but I just want to go back because it's a big number. So imagine disenfranchising this group of people.
150,000 people enrolled after the voting period started. Under the new rule, that wouldn't be allowed.
A whole lot of people are going to be affected by this. Māori, young people, working people, people looking after kids, people who've got busy lives. And they're the kind of people who we want to vote. We want everyone to vote.
Every election that we've had in recent years has resulted in special votes electing more left-wing party MPs.
The international vote often is strong for the Greens. International votes are a special vote. International votes are offshore. They need to be counted afterwards as special votes. The more New Zealanders that move internationally, and I think there's supposed to be 1 million Kiwis living in Australia alone, the more Kiwis, so put it this way, maybe you would have been better to keep those 17,000 builders in New Zealand Mr. Luxon, and then you wouldn't have had all the special votes coming in from the west coast of Australia that need to be counted as special votes after the election. So, yeah.
This will knock those votes out. It favours the government.
The government's also reinstating a total ban on prisoner voting, and they're introducing a new offence which prohibits free food, drink or entertainment within 100 metres of a voting place.
And that is straight from the Republican playbook. That policy is a Republican Party policy, because in America, you have to line up sometimes for hours and hours and hours. So there are groups that go along to help you stay in those queues and stay hydrated by giving you, and guess what the Republicans did? They made that illegal. And guess why? Because the longest queues are often in the poorest areas made up of the most cultured, the darkest skinned people. And so they knew passing that law would mostly impact Democrat voters. It is a literal from the Republican, like the law is carbon copied from them.
So with that, has there been any mention of restricting polling sites yet?
No, that's next though, isn't it?
Well, I
fewer
feel like
polling
that's
sites.
the thing missing, right?
Yeah, that'll be next as well.
A new offence which prohibits free food, drink or entertainment within.
Oh, that was me, sorry.
100
Why can't we
metres
have a
of
democracy
voting
sausage?
Not allowed it, and you're not allowed a fucking guitar. Leave your guitars at home, Whānau. Imagine that. Someone gets in the queue and they've got their guitar on their back and they're just strumming away. Technically, they're breaking the law. Technically, no entertainment. No jokes to be made in the queues, people. No jokes. No entertainment allowed. It's against the law. I mean, just think about what we're saying. Does this not sound like fucking... I don't want to be too dramatic here, but you can't have entertainment while you're waiting. Does that not sound like North fucking Korea? Like, honestly, so what? Someone brings along the stereo and they're playing music. Technically, that's entertainment. Can't have it. Got to be silent. Like, honestly. Yeah, no cell phones. Candy Crush. Turn that phone off. Put it back in your pocket. No entertainment. Like, what are you talking about?
Devil's advocate time here.
Don't do it.
I mean, you could have some pro-political party music act next to a polling place. It could be seen as coercion. I'm not going off the deep end with that.
But that's already illegal.
Yeah.
There's no electioneering on election day. That's already out.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
But honestly, no entertainment. What the fuck does that mean? No entertainment. I typically go and vote at university, and it's in the place where the food courts are. So those are all going to have to be silent. No guitars, no music, no nothing, no entertainment. I was like, come on, are you serious?
drink or entertainment within 100 metres of a voting place. Andrew Geddes says New Zealand historically has made it easy for people to vote.
We have no voter ID. We allow you to enrol and vote right up until polling day. Those are all things that have been part of how we do our elections. This is a major reversal of that approach.
I absolutely reject any idea that people will not be able to vote. They just need to be enrolled.
A blunt government message for the so-called...
I reject the fact that the people won't be able to go in the Tour de France. They just need to have a bike. Everyone can do it, just got to have a bike. It's like, what are you talking about? We just heard 150,000 New Zealanders used that option at the last election. The election you fucking won. 150,000 people used that. What do you mean this won't impact on anybody? This would have impacted on 150,000 voters at the last election. What are you talking about?
Might take a little bit longer though, Pat.
I was just looking up that Republican thing as well. Florida lawmakers have backtracked on legislation language that threatened to ban giving voters food and drink while near a polling place. A federal judge on Friday narrowed a section of Georgia election law that banned the practice of handing out food and water to voters. So maybe it's been turned around by some of these courts, but it's straight from the Republican handbook, 100%.
Drop kicks. Time to get organised. Abby Wakefield, One News.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, I almost think this is the biggest story of the year. Maybe it's the bouncing dead cat or whatever that thing is. Perhaps they're trying to take the view of something else because they are talking about, I mean, it still has to go through the complete select committee. I mean, fuck, I'll do a presentation for that one. No problems at all. I'll put my hand up to do a Zoom. That is utterly ridiculous. Any hampering of any single individual, making it harder for them to vote, is an attack on democracy. I don't care how you try and spin it.
Yeah.
Chewie?
It's dumb. I just don't think it's necessary. Like, the ease that we're able to vote here in New Zealand is a good thing. I think the takeaway here is that we are going to have to mobilise, and we're going to have to talk to as many people, all of us, as we can. Like, one of the things that I was quite proud of last election is that I had a colleague who had recently turned 18. She never voted. She didn't know who she was going to vote for, and she didn't know how it worked. And I was able to take her down to the polling booth downstairs in the mall, and she was able to vote for the very first time very fucking easily. And that is a good thing, because now her perception is that voting is easy.
Did you convince her to vote? Did you convince her to vote for the right party, Chewie?
I did not, because I think this shit is important. She asked me who she should vote for, and I said, I can give you my opinion of who I would vote for, but you need to vote for who you think is best for you. You shouldn't vote for a certain party because your parents vote a certain way. You know, it's just something that I think is quite important. I have always voted. You can't be politically active. You can't care about this shit and then not vote. So talk to the young people in your life. Make sure that they're all ready to vote. Talk to the people that have always been vocal that there's no point in voting, and point out the fucking difference in our two governments most recently, and go, with respect, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There is very clearly a difference.
Yeah.
And then you hold a gun to their head and you make them vote for the Greens. I mean, what?
Sorry for that little interruption. My 19-year-old is going to her boyfriend's, and she needed me to say "I love you" too back to her, so that's why I turned it off. Yeah, this is disgusting. This is shocking. I don't know. You know how we have our things? I feel quite passionate about this, because democracy feels like the thing that we do. You know, let's be a little bit exuberant here or dramatic here, that literally people have fought and died for. It's the kind of thing that you should be agreeing that if this law impacted one person, it shouldn't be in place, not in a democracy. If one person comes out of a coma a week before the election and they now can't vote, that's one people too many. It just feels that important. And honestly, I know that might seem a little bit OTT, but it does feel that important. This is one of the ones where if it impacts one person, it's one person too many. But as we just heard, it impacts 150,000 people from the last election. And, yeah, I mean, Andrew Geddes, it sounded like he was saying it would impact international votes as well. But this does come back to that thing, and I'm not saying it, like, I'm kind of disagreeing with what I said previously, which is the Greens' jobs to activate that left base, who are the ones who are slackest, right? But the reality is, if the government was to bring this in, that becomes about 1,000% more important. If it does come in, which I will fight it, hope it doesn't, but if it does, I only hope and think that it probably can't be in for the next election. But then again, the election after, it'll favour the right over the left. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, this is why they're talking about it now, right? This is changes for the next election.
Yeah. All right. Kiwi says this is why people need to vote Labour, Greens, or Te Pāti Māori. And Dresnaut says, pull my gold finger. Peter, if the government falls apart and there's a snap election, which is the far from a non-zero possibility, this will disenfranchise people even more. Yeah. Yeah, I guess what you're saying is if it's an early election and this law was to come in place, that gives people even less time to be registered. Arvid says, no jokes, straight to jail right away. Kiwi says, Pat, if you get a pack, then you are already enrolled, Pat. There was no Pat at the start. I know I said Pat at the start. You are only confirming the details. People who are not enrolled don't get a pack, so are breaking the law. Well, again, if you've turned 18 in the previous 3 week cycle, 3 year cycle, at some stage you need to register. That can be on election day. If you've just got citizenship, at some stage you will need to register to vote. That can be in the week before the election. Alex says, just wanted to show how expensive food is. Today I was at Woolworths buying 2 blocks of mainland butter. Well, there's a couple of $100 already. And 2 boxes of Sea Lord tempura fish fillets came close to $45. This is totally expensive. I agree with you. Obviously, the 2 blocks of butter are going to be about $20. And I guess you're saying the boxes of Sea Lord tempura fish are about $12.50 each, I'd say, give or take. That's what I would think. Ballot says, free samples in mall supermarket with a polling station, treating a fence. Water cooler in the library with a polling booth, treating a fence. Yeah. I mean, like this thing about no entertainment, what the fuck does that mean? I mean, how many places do we go where there's music playing? You know, I can watch Netflix while I'm waiting in a queue of 100 people, but the person next to me, they sure as fuck can't watch it because that would be me entertaining them. What are you talking about? Yeah. To show the how government has not addressed the cost of living issue, premium beef mince at Woolworths in Lower Hutt is selling at $20 to $30. I'm assuming that's per kilo, just for good quality beef mince. Yeah, it's interesting. I can remember not that long ago. I mean, when you get old, it spreads the time. But like within the last decade or so, mince was the go-to, and it was always a tray for around $10. Now a tray is like the big trays. Now the tray is 18 on special, 23 normal price. It really gets in. Citizen Gold's got the answer for all of us. Vote early, vote often. There you go. We need some sensible people, and Gold and Citizen's one of them. Okay, Chewie, there's one other story I found today as well, which was an exclusive to TVNZ, which I haven't teased, which now I can't find. Where is it? Oh, there it is. About a national MPs having, there was a secret recording of Mr. Bedlegs talking about stealing Labour policy because it was good. And we might do that last. So if you haven't heard that, Mr. Bedlegs stealing Ingrid Hipkins, actually, I think, some policy from her, and being really straight up that if we don't take it, we will lose a percentage of the vote. And he's talking about people who are in rest homes. So we'll do that as well before we wrap up. But before we do, we have talked a lot of butter today, so we don't need to spend a long time on this. But let's just have a look at the story from One News Tonight, where we're at. This is really... Nicola Willis has thrown Fonterra under the bus, basically going, talk to them. And also the supermarket saying, well, Fonterra's done nothing wrong. It's all about the supermarkets. It's only a 2-minute story. Let's have a look.
The great debate, dubbed Buttergate, rolls on. Fonterra's boss dismissing an idea to discount the yellow gold to Kiwi shoppers, instead calling the record high butter prices a good news story for the economy. Political editor Mikey Sherman has more.
From politicians,
as we deal with Buttergate,
to the public.
Everyone's talked about it, so yeah, it's not good.
The cost of this Kiwi staple is on everyone's lips.
If it's produced locally, why can't we pay local prices, right?
It's expensive, yeah. I support to give Kiwi a better price. Please, Fonterra.
After avoiding questions at Parliament this week, today the Fonterra boss fronted up saying it's a good news story.
It will be roughly $25 billion for the New Zealand economy as well.
Wonder how that feels to the solo mum in South Dunedin or South Auckland or Porirua or the East Coast. This is great because it's going to inject $25 billion into the economy and their share prices are going to go up. Like, in all seriousness, someone might have missed the mark on how to address the public who are feeling like they're suffering at the moment under the cost of living. Hey, good on you guys. You know all that money you're paying? It's making a good bunch of money for a small number of people.
It'll be roughly $25 billion for the New Zealand economy is what we'll generate as an organisation this year. And we've seen that play out in particular through butter prices, where those butter prices are up in the last couple of years by 60-odd give or take. As I say, that is a good news story.
Consumers paying 60% more for butter, though, may feel differently.
Well, as I say, the international market is determining what that price looks like.
And here's how it works.
But see, they're going to give you the formula now. I mean, we spoke to Craig this evening, but I'll play the formula first.
500-gram block of butter sold for $8.60. Fonterra says 80% of the cost comes from the global butter price.
So take off 20%. So take off, let's just call it $1.50. So $7 is the global butter price. That I would still like to ask the CEO why is it being based on the global butter price? Why have we got butter? And I know that Craig kind of explained that it has to be. Why does it have to be? Right? Why is it that, like the butter that Fonterra's got, that's not going to auction. They've already got it. I mean, it's theirs. They put it to auction for the global butter price, but the other stuff they've got, they're not buying it off themselves, or are they? Someone said something like that last night, one company to another. They've already got it.
This is making me feel stupid because I don't get it either.
But that's what I was trying to say. I'm not. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. So it's based on the global butter price. Why is it based on the global? But why? You need to be a 3-year-old talking to him. But why? But why? But why? And if it comes down to because of legislation, yeah, that's the thing. If it is because of legislation,
can be changed.
That's exactly the point. But why turns into because it's written into law. So then the response is, oh, okay, so we can change the law.
So then the government tables a bill that says a certain percentage of Fonterra's production has to be reserved for the New Zealand market and is removed from the pool that goes into the international market. Boom. Has to. Legislated. We also legislate a better supermarket. Chain has to come in.
Yeah. All right. We'll keep going.
The rest is made up of margins from producers, distributors and retailers, the cost of transporting it and finally GST. But many question why Kiwis are paying the global price instead of an alternative local one.
We know we have an obligation to sell here in New Zealand, and we do that, and we support the New Zealand economy. But our job is to not come in with a two-tier pricing system, to your question.
But why? Why is your job not to come in with a two-tier system? Why not? Because you could if you wanted to. We could if it was legislated. So, but why? Why not?
And discount here in the New Zealand market.
It's made here, so we should pay our prices.
I mean, if it's being made here, then why not, you know? It makes sense.
Well, it's keeping New Zealand's economy going, and somebody has to pay for that.
95% of Fonterra's product is sold internationally, while New Zealand makes up 5%.
If you're going to get into discounting by product, this is not a game that we're playing.
After facing a...
But why? Why not? So I got the headline, but why?
Few tough years, Fonterra's revenue is expected to be $25 billion this year for its 8,500 farmers.
Do you actually understand what it's like for consumers to go to the supermarket and face these prices?
Absolutely. I was in the supermarket myself last night.
What do you get paid?
Yeah, but you have $6 million.
But what do you get paid by Fonterra?
You can see that in the annual report, which comes out a few months' time.
Just under $6 million.
So it's about what we can do to support the New Zealand economy.
Butter still a hot talking point. Mikey Sherman, One News.
Yeah, but look, I mean, I don't want to get into another debate around what's someone worth, what they're being paid, yada, yada, yada. But the big issue there, which we'll all agree with, is he said, yes, I understand what it's like Kiwis struggling in the supermarket. No, but just be honest, because you don't. Yep. You don't. Because as soon as you say yes, of course someone's going to go, but you make $500,000 a month. How can you understand what it's like for that solo mom or that family with two?
For that?
Yeah.
Why wasn't he prepared for that question?
Yeah.
Like, he legitimately got shitty about it.
Yeah.
And I get it. It's a question you weren't prepared for, but you can't go, oh no, I get it. Things are really tough. I was in the supermarket, but then And then immediately flows out, but you have $6 million this year. Like, so it doesn't matter. You can just put your hand in a shelf and just put it in the trolley. You never even have to think about it. Like, that's very different from what the experience of what many New Zealanders are having. So why, if you avoided saying that, you probably would have avoided the follow-up question. Because when you try to pretend to empathize that you know how tough it is, this is the criticism that I had of Nicola Willis the other day. She's on 300,000. And I thought that was a bit rich for you to go, well, look, I understand it. A lot of Kiwis are doing it tough. No, you don't understand. You might have been told. You don't understand. Don't try and empathize.
Yeah. So just so you're clear, Chewie, what did you spend at the supermarket? $200, $200 ish. You know, $200, $300, $150 to $300. That interview. That if you looked at what he earned, and you worked out literally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that was about 5 minutes. Yeah. He makes 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, about $680 an hour. So if I divide that by 12, which would be 5 of them, so he could afford to buy 5.5 blocks of butter. That's how much he earned whilst that program was aired, or that story was aired. I mean, just think about it, right? $6 million. So 12 months, that's $500,000 a month. That means it's about 100, because there's 4.3 weeks, so it's not quite 4. So it's about $110,000 to $115,000 a week. A week. So a 5 day working week. So he's making, 20 grand a day, 25 grand a day. So in 2 days, I'm just doing the maths in my head. I hope it's right. In 2 days work, he earns more than a minimum wage earner working full time all year. So we can get into conversations. I think sometimes people might struggle with me when I talk about a commercial value, yada, yada, yada. That's one conversation, you know. But when the person who has what amounts to endless amounts of money says, I understand what it's like to struggle in the supermarket when I earn $20,000 a day, that's your mistake. Well, there's more than mistakes than just that, but that's a pretty pissy punch in the gut for people who are living off a benefit on $300 a week, who literally would be earning as much in the whole year off that benefit that you earn in one day. Anything else? I hope my numbers are right there. I should do it super quick, just to make sure. What do we say? 6 million? 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Someone graded his homework.
Divided by 52, that would be the weeks. Yeah, 115,000. That's pretty good. Divide that by 5. Yeah, $23,000 a day. There you go.
Look, there's another aspect I want to bring up with this, and it is fronting an interview like that. And this goes for Nicola, and this goes for the supermarkets. What does it take to break a social contract? Like, is this something that New Zealanders will go, oh, actually, fuck that. No, I don't like the way he spoke to us about that. It's a difficult thing though, right? Because it is such a dominant producer. Like, there's not a lot of dairy producers, independent dairy producers in New Zealand. So even if you want to get pissy and go, well, I'm not buying anything from Fonterra now, good luck in the dairy section.
Yeah.
We just don't have the choice. We don't have the choice when it comes to going to a supermarket either. Yeah. Don't know how to solve it.
I am interested in shining a light on some independent dairy producers. Like we there's not much we can do here about your, $11 block of butter or your $9. But what we could do is find out about some independent manufacturers and see if there's some people out there that we could point people to. That's something we could do. I'll do some research over the weekend. A couple of super chats in here. Mozgol for $5 says we could vastly improve voter turnout by offering a 500-gram butter with every vote cast. God, how much would that cost?
I think that could be potentially a very slippery policy.
$1 billion. Could we entertain mandatory voting like Aussies? I don't hate the idea of mandatory voting, but you know where I stand on this. I've said it before. Some people choose not to vote. They make an active choice that no one represents me. I have no problems with the concept of having mandatory voting. By law, you must vote. If somewhere on the ballot it says none of the above, it just has to say that. So someone can go in, they can do their citizens thing, and they can tick, "You all suck." So that would be my prerequisite for it. What do you think about mandatory voting, Chewie?
I am not a fan.
Yeah.
Like I think if you're going to make something mandatory, being mandatory to register to vote is fine. Like, I want people to be engaged in the voting process and think that there is a point to it. And that is much harder. You can't legislate that, and you can't find your way to success. I think the aspect of potentially going after some people because they didn't vote is not the way. I know the Australians charge a couple of people every election for not voting, and it just seems to be a bit gross. But then, you go and vote, you draw a dick on the paper, job done.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. People just deface the think it's the same thing. But I actually think I don't disagree with what I'm just looking for independent dairy things while we're talking, Chewie, and I found one.
Oh, that's it. Dreadnought says Westgold uses milk from Gloria Vale Farms. Cool.
that comes with some special words on it. Green Valley Pure Milk. There you go. Our milk goes directly from the dairy parlour to the processed plant, where it is treated gently to retain the old-fashioned values of a great product, taste, freshness, and long shelf life. And where can you buy it from? They seem to be a lot. It looks North Island, Auckland, Napier, Waiheke, Auckland, Tauranga.
Cyber Goblin makes a good point. Maybe drawing a dick on your voting paper would be counted as a vote for Seymour, so you've got to be careful about that.
Yeah, it's true actually. All right, let's do the story, shall we? It's sort of it could be a time to wrap, but I actually think this is an exclusive from TVNZ, and it's really interesting, and it's from a Dunedin MP as well. We have a little connection here as well. But old Bedleg here has been caught out telling people he wants to steal Labour Party policy, which is a really good look, really good look. So basically what Bedleg is saying is that you might as well vote Labour because they've got the ideas.
Back here, a leaked recording has revealed some National MPs are keen to pinch a Labour Party plan to improve the financial conditions for retirement village residents. And they're worried they'll lose the votes of senior citizens at the next election if they don't do it soon. Here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins with this exclusive report.
When Kiwis move into a retirement village, they pay a lot for the right to live there. But when they leave that home, it can take an age for them or their families to get that money back from the village.
We have examples that residents haven't been paid out for up to 2 years, 27 months in actual fact, just quite recently.
Wow, that's shocking. I went through this in 2023 when Dad passed, and we probably, so what happens, I'm sure many of you know, but if you don't know, is a retiree will buy an apartment, and what happens when they pass, when they die, is that apartment then gets sold to the next person, and the original people get their money out. And there's a new system where my parents did it. It was like it was bought for whatever it was, 700K or I don't know how much it was. And when mum and dad passed away, the contract said that the family got like 60% of the money back or something. Whereas the system now is you buy it, and this has been a change in legislation, I think, or certainly in the practice. You buy the apartment, let's say for $1 million if it's in Auckland or whatever, and you die 5 years later, and you get 70% of the money back, and you get half of what it's then sold for. So if they then sold it for 1.5 million, you'd get 70%. The family would get 70% back of the original purchase price and half of the additional $500,000 back as well, which is a new legislation which wasn't in place when my parents signed up, but that's what it was. And I think we probably waited about 6 months, but 27 months seems a bit ridiculous.
Families left in financial limbo.
Their families get stressed because they're left with the end product of, gosh, when's mum and dad's estate money going to come that we can pay for funeral expenses or estate purposes?
Now, this is a function of the unique way that our system is set up, and it really does favour retirement villages.
There's been a multi-year review running into retirement villages, but a Labour MP has put forward a members' bill with a possible solution.
Everybody would get their money back within 3 months.
On a recent trip down south, National MP Sam Uffindell told supporters he's been paying attention to her ideas.
I'd like to know more about it. Maybe we'll get Ingrid on. Because if the way that the next family normally gets the money is the apartment's sold. So what happens if the apartment's not sold? How does the family get the money back? The home then has to have a bank of money on the side to pay them out. It would be interesting just to see the logistics of how that would work. So we got our money back when my parents' apartment was sold to the next people. So if that transaction hadn't happened, then we wouldn't have seen it until it did happen.
One News has obtained a leaked recording.
Ingrid Leary, who's quite cunningly put forward a members' bill which would address some of this, and she's savvy enough to have garnered up a lot of attention around retirement villages.
He went on to talk about how the government needs to respond.
We need to arrest or take the key parts out of that are workable and make sure we build that into something. But importantly, it needs to go through the House before the end of this term. Because if it hasn't, we're going to have a whole bunch of disgruntled people in retirement villages who all vote and all talk to each other about it, who will go, oh, National hasn't actually delivered and Labour was going to do this.
Ingrid Leary's just chuffed.
Well, it's great to hear that National Party MPs are supporting my bill. That's the right thing to do, but they should be supporting it because it's the right thing to do, not just because it's politically expedient.
We asked the MP about his comments today.
I go around to a lot of the retirement villages in Tauranga, and I know Tom does in the Bay of Plenty, and you hear a lot of the concern from those residents there. We're open to all good ideas out there, and New Zealanders would expect nothing less.
Christopher Luxon needs to listen to that. He needs to listen to his backbenchers.
We've been committed since before the election to continue the work around retirement villages, and I'm proud of the work the ministers are doing.
The Prime Minister says expect to see an announcement in the coming months.
So Benedict, the way...
So that's it. It was interesting also to see the Prime Minister on Zoom. We heard from, or pre-recorded, we heard from people at the local body conference that the Prime Minister zoomed in for that as well. There was a bit of criticism around him not being available for some of these other events. Interesting just to see it happen again. What are your thoughts, Chewie? Old Bedleg is pretty keen to pinch Ingrid's idea and actually acknowledges that if they don't, it'll be a bad look for National at the next election.
I think it's time for a man with no good ideas of his own.
Yep.
Yeah. God, he's a goober. He's just latching on to something that will definitely speak to his constituents, the God's waiting room of Tauranga.
Yeah. So I mean, like it's a good sign when your opposition wants to steal your ideas. I just hope that, for example, Labour gets the hint and pinches some stuff off the Greens when it comes to tax ideas, and maybe they can all just be a bit more incestuous with good ideas. I mean, we've said this about this government. I don't think it's funny, eh? I mean, you could tell me if you disagree with the statement, Chewie. I want this government to be successful. The reason I want them to be successful is I don't want us to go backwards, vulnerable people in the country, any of those things. So I want the government running the country to have the best ideas, no matter where they come from. So if a government took an idea off someone else and then ran with it, and it was a good idea, cool. But the problem is these guys are bereft of good ideas, and
they always have been.
They don't have it. Well, we've said this for 2 years. The left make policy, and the right respond to policy. And there's a black and white example, not just responding to policy, but responding to the idea of policy and trying making it their own. That's actually the dictionary definition of the right responding to policy. You've just seen it and heard it with your own eyes. Heard it with your eyes? You know what I mean?
Hey, I got one thing before we go. You know how it's absolutely impossible to have any sort of change in the way that Fonterra operates and the price of its products for the domestic market. They could never do that. They could never change it.
Apparently, it's that's the way it happens. It's in legislation. There's nothing we can do about it. They have to.
What if they have before?
Oh, that's interesting.
Someone just sent this to me on Blue Sky. Fonterra freezes the New Zealand milk price. This is in 2011. International milk prices have risen steadily over recent months, and while these prices are good for food exports and the New Zealand economy, New Zealanders are feeling the effects. It says milk is an important part of the diet of New Zealand and wants future generations of New Zealanders to grow up enjoying it every day. The announcement came late on Friday afternoon after Agriculture Minister David Carter said he was seeking advice from his officials about the cost of milk. The deal will not only affect local sales. This deal will only affect local sales, not 95% of Fonterra's production that sells offshore.
But Chewie, that sounds like a two-tier system. I don't think we can do two-tier system. We're not about that. That's interesting. I actually genuinely hate it when we come up with things through one of you guys that the mainstream media hasn't. Why on earth did not some professional journalist, not rodeo clowns from Dunedin, go in that meeting? Boy, you know the two-tier system, you guys did that in 2011. What's the problem with doing it again now? Fucking hell.
So thanks to, who was that? Lou on Blue Sky that pointed that to me.
Thank you, Lou.
Yeah.
And look, we are setting up a new sort of communications hub here at BHN. The website there's a placeholder website right now, bhn.nz, but we are going to set up, inboxes and emails and stuff for tips and news stories and stuff that can help us, because, the Mike's Minute that we did last night, that was from someone emailing me going, make sure you check out Mike's Minute. And it was great. So we are all about, I guess when you talk about grassroots, and I know some people react to that word, or ground level, or whatever you want to say for kind of news media, is we can all contribute to this, and you guys do. So yeah, that's something that the mainstream media has obviously missed. Chewie, can I just say, this might also be another example of why ripping the heart out of news media doesn't help. If there was still all the same journalists there today that were there 13, 14 years ago, someone would have remembered that. It makes me sad to think that maybe that wasn't the top of anyone's mind, because there's no one left who was there doing those stories. Because I know when we do a story and something comes up 6 months later, we go, oh yeah, we've talked about this. We should bring it back. So if no one's picked up on that, then that just means the people who are involved with that story, who wrote that story, who were a part of that story, who ran those exclusives, there's a chance they're no longer in the game, which fucking sucks.
Here's the kicker about that story as well. 2011 was an election year.
Yep.
Just a few weeks after John Key had announced the date of the election.
Yeah. So what you're saying is they'll probably go to a two-tier system next year, but certainly not this year. Over Red Rover, when Fonterra was formed, the dairy board was dissolved. This made the domestic market floated. Having a player the size of Fonterra free to set the price would make it impossible for a competition. The danger of mouse. Point the independent manufacturers towards the independent retailers, maybe. There you go. Nice. Like that. Maybe we get some independent people to be sign up to the third supermarket chain. We can really get them out there. Kai Mātara says, make voting more accessible, i.e. online voting for disabled people. Some of us can't make it to our letterboxes and we get less care now thanks to National. I still think it should be as easy as it is to access your IRD or bank account. Like, honestly, yes. We know there's security problems. There are some issues and concerns, but we have IRD numbers. We can use those to be identified as voters. We can do it online. I don't see why we don't have people who want to make, and this is all politicians, because none of you fuckers have done it, that want to make voting easier. Why would anyone want to make voting more difficult unless, of course, there's nefarious intent behind it? Yeah. One more thing from Over Red Rover. The international price is intended to prevent manipulation from an oversized player. Character limit. So that went with the top one. Okay. Anything else you want to get to, Chewie?
No, my room is very cold.
Oh, is
so
that?
I would like to go one of the warmer parts of my house.
Okay. See what you do, Chewie? People, poor old Chewie gets cold.
Yeah.
And his bunion starts to hurt, which means there's rain from the west coming. It's just not good. Now we're done. This is us for the week. So tomorrow night the youngsters will be in, correcting all the mistakes from all the things we've said tonight for sure. Like in the chat multiple times tonight. Yeah. And then we'll be back, I guess, on Monday for the next edition. Are you going to be here Monday, Chewie, or are you already in London by then? Like.
No, I'll be here on Monday. You still got me for a little bit.
You really? You're going to grace us with your presence?
Yeah, it's not for another month.
Yeah, well, I mean, just I thought you might have other concerts to go to, like in Australasia or something. And
actually, I do soon. I do soon, actually.
Oh, good.
You do know about this, don't you?
I have no clue what you're talking about. Probably not.
I'm going up to Christchurch
August in
Wellington, and then the tattooing and stuff. So there'll be some times that I might be coming to you from Wellington on my phone.
We talked about that. We talked about doing another meetup, but I think that basically your tattooing was going to fill up the whole weekend, and there wasn't time for it to figure out.
I'm not fun just sitting like this, going, my arms hurt. Everything hurts.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, team. Thanks for being with us for the week. Thanks for being a part of it. Thanks for Craig, who jumped in today and, agreed to disagree to agree. He gave us the full answer from the farmer's point of view who makes money through Fonterra. It's good to hear someone communicating his thoughts with us. He's a straight shooter. And, kids will be in tomorrow night, and we'll catch you for Monday. I think that's about us.
Settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny, even if we're all creatures of hate. It's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the
Anything else? Any words of wisdom to wrap us up with, Chewie?
Go listen to Murder by Death and find out why I'm charging all the way around across the world for them.
All right, guys. We'll catch you Monday from 9 p.m. for the next edition of Big Hearing News. Kids are in tomorrow night. Have a good one, team. Stay safe over the weekend. Stay warm. Hooroo!
Cheers, fam.